Rudy confirming that you can see my screen. Awesome. So we'll just give it another minute or so and then we'll begin. For those who are just joining, welcome. Feel free to turn on your cameras. You can share your name and where you're calling in from in the chat. We'll just give it one more minute and we'll begin. Okay, let's get started. So welcome everyone to the RiSWP mentorship session. This is our, this might be a typo, we are at our 6th session today, so we're very excited to welcome you. My name is Sapir and I lead operations for the SWAN Forum. SWAN is the leading global hub for the smart water and wastewater sectors. We bring together innovative utilities, solution providers, and industry experts from around the world to discuss data-driven and digital solutions for the water sector. So right here, you can see a selection of our membership from around the world. And our flagship event each year is an annual conference. This year's event will be a week long. It's the first virtual Smart Water Week and will be the largest smart water gathering ever. We're really excited for over 30 hours of content on cutting edge topics. As of today, we have over 80 utilities in attendance. Nearly 500 people have already registered, and they're currently networking on the conference platform, getting to know each other. So this will be a really exciting opportunity. If you are a student, you are eligible for a student discount at £50 for the entire week. The platform will also include an opportunity for young professionals to network. There is a dedicated roundtable session to how to make the water sector more appealing to young professionals. And a lot of our members from SWAN will also be sharing job opportunities there. So a great place to start exploring. I'll shortly introduce RiSWP, but I just wanted to share a selection of our videos from the mentorship series and also a recent webinar we did about how to land a job in smart water are all available on the RiSWP website. So you can find all of those there, and the recording from today's session will be available as well. After we did the webinar on how to land a job in smart water, we created a career portal for smart water resources. These are opportunities for young professionals and others to find jobs, how to better write a resume, how to better prepare themselves for interviews. There are also books and videos included. So a really great resource as well, available on the RiSWP website. And a big thank you actually to Pedro, who's a new SWAN RiSWP ambassador, who recently wrote a blog about the webinar that we hosted with his key takeaways. So you can find that on the website as well. And we're really hoping to share all of these resources with you. If you find that there's something that we haven't shared yet, please let us know and we'll be more than happy to find a way to do that. So with that, I'll transition it over to Rudy, who's a member of the RiSWP leadership team. Thank you.
Thanks, Sapir, and welcome everybody. My name is Rudy Buerta. I'm part of the Rising Smart Water Professionals leadership team that you see on your screen right now. And we are the young professional community of SWAN. And this is our leadership team. And I've got Emma on the call today with me assisting. And we've also recently introduced some ambassadors into our community. So these are 16 leading young professionals in the space that are going to help amplify our voice on a more local and community level in their communities. And so we welcome Amrita, who's assisting me today with your audience questions. And I see we have many other of our ambassadors on the call as well today. So welcome to you all, and thank you for joining. Today we have our sixth episode of the Smart Water Mentorship Program. So this is a program that is designed with a bit of inspiration from Tim Ferriss's book of Tribe of Mentors. We're interviewing many professionals in our space with kind of a standard set of our questions and some of your creative questions in between, hoping to create a library of advice, career and life advice in our smart water sector that can be a resource going forward. As you look back, you will see different things that resonate with you. So these will be made available on our RiSWP website and YouTube page. So today's mentor is Hanneke Schuurmans. We're very happy to have you here with us. Hanneke is the Chief Technology Officer for Resilience Suite at Royal Haskoning DHV. She works as a crossover between hardcore engineering, digital IT, data analytics, and the service world. She has an MSc in hydrology and quantitative water management from Wageningen University. After graduating, she worked for 2 years as a consultant and then took the opportunity to start a PhD. She gained her PhD in physical geography in 2008 from Utrecht University. Her dissertation is titled Hydrological Now and Forecasting. She published several articles, both in peer-reviewed scientific journals, as well as in national professional journals. She has been working for Royal Haskoning DHV since 2010, where she is a leading professional on climate resilience. She has worked on various projects around the world and learned a lot about challenges, which more often are not technical related. Hanneke's biggest motivation is finding practical digital water solutions, playing the role of integrator and building bridges between knowledge institutes, niche players, and end users. Her expertise include applications of remote sensing and artificial intelligence techniques in water management, with a focus on end user driven design as well as quantitative climate change. Hanneke has 3 kids, loves nature and playing outside. As the daily job is mostly behind the computer, she likes to refresh by going out for a mountain bike ride or a run or a walk in the woods. Her goal for this year is to do an Olympic distance triathlon, but swimming outside appears to her to be a bridge too far now. So welcome, Hanneke. We're very honored to have you with us.
Thank you, Rudy. I'm honored to be part of this great session and initiative. Thank you.
Fantastic. I just want to remind everybody, please post your questions in the chat as we're going through. We're going to be putting your questions in throughout the session. So I'm going to start with a little icebreaker. These are what I like to call rapid fire questions. And so if you could please answer with the first thing that comes to mind. So the first one is, could you complete the sentence, smart water is?
It's power charging, I think, the traditional engineer beyond human capabilities by using information technology and data analytics.
I like that, power charging.
It's not replacing, and I think maybe we will come back to that later on, but I sometimes think if we call it smart water, then it seems like what has done so far is not smart. Whereas we have a lot of smart engineers. So I really believe it's the crossover between subject matter experts and engineers and new technologies. And the one cannot go without the other. And it's not replacing people, because sometimes people are scared that then they will be replaced by computers. And that's why I said it's power charging and not replacing.
It sounds like we should call it smarter water then instead.
Yeah.
The next question is, what do people often get wrong about you?
Yeah, I don't think people get things wrong about. I hope, and otherwise, I'm quite. What you see is what you get. But what I've experienced so far is that working in academic sector and then in private sector, that there are sometimes people think that once you work for private sector, the only thing that counts for you is making money. And sometimes people in private think academic is only about research and publication. So that's what I've experienced in my jobs, and yeah, that's I think something we have to bridge as well to get a better understanding of the drivers of the different players in the field.
And what is one of your favorite books?
One of my favorite books, and I actually took it with me to really prove that I have it. And I know that there are smarter ways, and by using an e-reader. But this book is it's in Dutch, but I think the English title is Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. Nobel Prize winner, and it was during a leadership course that they mentioned this book, and it's really interesting to better understand that the way we think, and that we have two, he calls it two systems, system 1 and system 2, and the fact that we are sometimes biased also has to do with the way we think, and we often don't make decisions based on really data-driven decisions, but often also based on our experience so far. And it's good to have that understanding, I think. And but I chose this book as this is also a mentorship training, but actually this is not something I read in once. So I to really dive into a book and read some Roman and disruptive literature. I like that as well, if I have the time left. So Madame Bovary I just finished, which was a book published in 1856 and was a scandal at that time. And if you read it now, you don't understand why it was a scandal at that time.
Oh, interesting. I'm going to look that one up. And what is a must-have part of your typical workday?
Well, nowadays, I think you all experience going out of your office, and we are sitting behind the screens and have meetings behind the screens. So one thing that I started to do immediately is to have a walk outside before I start my working day, and also seriously take time for a break in the afternoon. And later on, and that's an essential part, besides of course coffee, and have at least a good laugh with a colleague or someone else. So reach out to each other if you're because the risk of getting isolated, I think, is quite high given the circumstances we're in.
I think that's very good advice. Thank you. And what is on your nightstand?
I don't have a nightstand. No, we changed the bed, and it's not very handy to have this nightstand, and actually I'm not missing it either. It's for me, reading in bed, I fall asleep immediately. And I have someone else to also I can't have the lights on while the others are sleeping, of course. And yeah, so actually I use the bedroom for to get my rest, and no need to have the mobile telephone on my night shelf. I think that's another advice, really. The fact that we are now, it's blurry, that you have your working environment and your house. So try to just close the things down and shut down your telephone and take a good rest.
I think that's a very good one as well. Very important. And what is a snapshot of an ordinary moment in your life that brings you true joy?
Yeah, what really gives me true joy is connecting and having fun with friends, and I'm missing that quite a lot. But I have really good friendship groups from still from university in Wageningen. I know the Dutch names have a lot of so we know each other for 25 years, and two friends now decided to get married this summer. So a lot of things, memories are now passing via WhatsApp, and that's gives you a good laugh of the student time.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
Nice memories coming out. And what is your latest curiosity?
Yeah, actually, that's not a very positive one, but related with water. There was recently a study published. I think it was initiated by the Ocean Cleanup. That they found out that 1% of the rivers, so 1,000 rivers, contribute to 80% of the plastic waste towards the oceans. And I think this is really the whole plastic waste discussion and microplastics is really an issue that we have to put higher on the agenda. And there was actually, it was inspired by a television program in the Netherlands, where they call also different suppliers and industries to ask how come, and they created an app. So talking about smart and how you can make a change, I think, in this kind of things. They now created an app where you can scan the ingredients, and it shows you if there are microplastics in it. Because I sometimes don't know. I mean, polyethylene, yeah, that might be a microplastic, but they have so many names, and I'm not an expert in that field. So this really helps you to make, as a consumer, I think, the right choices. And those kind of developments, I think, are smart and can be disruptive. Yeah, so encourage you to look at the Google app store or Android store to search for that one.
Oh, thank you. Well, at least there was a positive spin to that.
To that, yeah.
So exciting, so a bit scary curiosity. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. I'm going to move on now to the sort of more longer guiding interview questions, and feel free to really expand into whatever comes to mind. They're really just guiding questions to get you talking about your career and your life and sharing some advice with us as young professionals. So the first is, are there any significant people or events that helped to get you where you are now in your career as a smart water professional?
Yeah, actually many. And as this is a mentorship call, and if I'm elaborating too much, please also interrupt me. But I think one of the things that really helped me is when I was a student, and you have to do the thesis or research. Yeah, you could choose between subjects that were provided and that you could do within your university, or you could also go outside to the outside world and ask there if there were research questions there. And that's what I did actually immediately. So instead of staying in the university environment, I went out to a water board, and there got connected to actually hydrological model developers. And that brings me to I think why this is also so relevant, that you start working on your network. So at the time I was doing a specific a topic, and I got connected to some of those model developers, which later on appeared to be very helpful in the next phase. So one of the things which really was a game changer, I think, in my career path, was the fact that I went out for an internship to the International Water Management Institute in Sri Lanka. And at that time, the use of satellite data was actually much wider applied in that part of the world than it was in for example, the Netherlands or in the Western, because there was a lack of data on the ground, ground truthing. So that really inspired me, that the way they were handling those huge areas and studies in India, etc. And there I got connected to a professor from TU Delft who was working on satellite imagery for also getting evapotranspiration. And then I thought, hey, but that's something I would like to do and apply in the Netherlands as well. So I phoned that model developer, and he got enthusiastic. So finding people and look for opportunities and have a sensitivity of what is really a demand for in your field of expertise, and try to connect. And although you maybe feel a little bit reluctant, just be proactive in approaching those people and ask them to help you, because often they are enthusiastic to help you with those kind of research. And during that research, actually later on was one of those persons became a professor at Utrecht University. So years later, yeah, I could contact him again, and he had a place for a PhD. So I think, yeah, just connecting, but connecting to people who provide you with energy and who are open to help you and take things a step further is my advice. And yeah, try to open your network. I think beyond the silos maybe of your own study or subject.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Hanneke. I'm going to hand over to Amrita for an audience question, and then I'll be back for more of my questions.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rudy. And thank you so much, Hanneke, for joining us today's session to provide your mentorship skills and ideas. So as far as I have been trying to notice in our chat, we've not received live questions, but I really encourage from this platform to everyone, all of our participants to utilize this live session, because this would be the perfect timing to ask directly to our mentor here. So please feel free to ask here. But when you're thinking about the question, I can ask our question that we have received during registration time. So I can already start with those questions. So the first question we have, the name is Gioa Connell from Yes. Sorry if I pronounced the name incorrect. What are some mechanisms for structuring change management for cities of different differing capacities? So maybe I will repeat this once again. What are some mechanisms for structuring change management for cities of differing capacities?
So structuring change management for what?
For cities of differing capacities. So I as far as I understood, so with different capacities of cities, like how do we, like what are the change mechanism for structuring change management?
She's actually on the call. If you want to turn your mic on and maybe elaborate on the question a little bit. This is a great opportunity.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Hi.
Yeah, okay.
Hi,
well,
Joanne.
Hi, nice to meet you. Thank you for taking my question. And what I meant by that is I've worked either with cities or for cities directly for most of my career, and there's a lot of concern about lack of capacity, and a lot of that narrative depending on the city you're working with can be very sticky, and I'm curious your approach around how to foster change and create the change that a lot of these cities want and need, but may not be so sure how to achieve. I'm not so sure if this is something that you've engaged with, but even if it's not cities as the unit of of change, maybe another sort of stasis unit would be great to hear about.
Yeah, sure. So thanks a lot for your question. And to get this, is it for a specific topic? Is that for climate resilience within the cities, or?
I'm thinking for climate resilience, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I've worked with cities. We have the RC 100 cities, etc., which was the initiative that cities can interconnect and also exchange on new ideas. I think in general, what comes along with smart water or more data-driven solution is that we also need to think about in a different way of working together and different business models and different stakeholders involved. So public, private, and academic involvement, and they sometimes call it the golden triangle. I think works quite well. And it depends on, I think, the city, whether they have the capacity themselves. But of course, it would be very helpful if there are cities which also reach out to private sector or academic sector to bridge that, to fill that gap of knowledge. And one of the cities I work with quite closely is also quite leading in this whole discussion is the city of Rotterdam. They have quite some challenges in climate resilience, and they also interconnect with Singapore, for example. And what they do is they take a much more proactive approach on how to deal with those issues of climate change and the risk people are facing. So one of the initiatives we actually co-created with them was we called it Blue Label, but it actually puts like an energy label on each household to indicate the risk with regarding to floods, droughts, and heat stress. And that's because it's so important, I think, that as I mentioned with the app on microplastics, I didn't like chemistry at all very much, but I don't know what the meaning is of all this. And I think that's also the way we have to think about the climate resilience. Behind there's so much knowledge and in-depth knowledge, but to be able to really make an impact, it's so essential to talk at a level that people can interact with each other. So for the cities and governmental organizations to make decisions, but also exchange the knowledge with inhabitants. So building this bridge between experts and people who really use it, that demands for a different way of showing your data and information. Because data is not information. It really depends on for who are you developing and what is the issue you want to tackle. And I think that in general is something you have to be very aware of. That was at least on one hand a pitfall, on the other hand something would make me very enthusiastic that you're very data driven or technologically driven, but a lot of initiatives are completely technology pushed, and there is the gap between the end users and the technology is just too wide. So that's really what I learned in the past 10 years, I think, when I started to work with RiSWP, that the solution is often not only in the technical. You can contribute, but it's think and ask and continue to ask what exactly is it the issue that you have to solve before you start doing. Think before you start acting. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Hanneke, for answering that questions in a very efficient way. And thank you, Gioia, sorry, Jeff, for your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So we have another question, live question actually from Ethan Voiles. So the question is, how does your profession as CTO of the Resilience Suite at Royal Hans Koning DHB involved? So you can express your current experience directly.
Yeah, sure. So, well, actually, in the meantime, we have an official CTO. So to start with, Royal Haskoning DH3 is from origin. We exist, I think, 140 years this year, celebrate. So 140 years. So if you look at the stories, those are engineers, of course, white men who started the company. And a lot has changed, I think, in the meantime, of course, by the data and the information technology that we have. So our company had already for quite a while the strategy that besides project related and engineering solutions, we also wanted to offer more the insights that our engineers have via digital services, and also to automate the boring, so to say, and make reuse of a lot of data. So when starting a project, and to start with where I come from, so from the hydrology, etc. It often starts with collecting data for that certain area in the world with digital elevation models, the rainfall data, etc., etc. And what we experienced is that everyone, when starting a new project, was doing the same. So that's, of course, ridiculous. So we can be much more effective and efficient if we start collecting that. And it's not only collecting the data, as you might have experienced, it's sometimes overwhelming, the amount of data. So sometimes you have a feeling as a subject matter expert that you know what you want to do with it and want to analyze it, but you just don't have the capabilities of downloading the data, for example, because your own computer starts to smoke, I would say, or it crashes, and then analyzing it. So what we have done, it's an initiative. It's called. You can look at the resiliencesuite.com. It's called Uptime, and within that initiative, we work with some colleagues to really start collecting a lot of global data sets and start analyzing them and automate all the different aspects. And that involved not only subject matter experts, but also people much more capable of coming with solutions with parallel computing, for example. So my job there was to spearhead this team and make sure that the right people get connected to the right people. So what was the issue that they found during the whole process chain, and then involving other technicians and get them connected. And I think that's in general. You really need each other, because if you really want to dedicate yourself to a certain topic, the programs, the data, the solutions, they are progressing so fast and changing so fast that you can't expect yourself, as being sometimes a subject matter expert, that you know everything about parallel computing. So then reach out to those who really are fond of doing that, and then together I really found that very encouraging, and I also found that my colleagues were getting really enthusiastic because they had the scripts to do it, but they just couldn't handle all the data. And then working together with someone who could do it, then the enthusiasm that they brought together, that's really again, it makes me enthusiastic. And I think that's that's really something you should look for and start cooperating.
Yeah, thank you so much, Hanneke. Yeah, thank you so much, Hanneke, and thank you so much, our one of the ambassadors, Ethan, for the question. So now I'd like to give the platform to Rudy for another question.
So our next question is, what is one of the best or most worthwhile investments you've ever made? This isn't necessarily a money investment. It could be time or energy or enthusiasm or motivation.
Well, one of my best investments was when I started my first job after finishing the MSc. I bought myself a racing bicycle, which I just exchanged for one better one 2 years ago. So sometimes you have to celebrate if you have achieved one of your goals. And I think investment in yourself. So I'm really happy looking back that I had the opportunity, but also took the opportunity to start a PhD research. So yeah, and that was an investment. It was not always easy. I think it's quite well, maybe in general, but working in the academic sector, then it really requires you to be focused on yourself. You have to do a lot by yourself, yeah. So it was in that sense challenging, but I learned so much, and so much more than I did during my MSc. Also on computer skills, etc., which still helps me very much in the work, the daily job that I'm doing, because although I know that the technology and insights have improved, and that when we have young people coming into the company, they sometimes even know better how to solve things, and for sure scripting and modeling I left that for others to do, because they're much more efficient. But knowing what it takes them to do the job, and also realizing if you asked how much time do you think you need for this job, and that you get an answer, you know that you have to multiply that by 2 or 3, that really helps. So yeah, getting that understanding yeah, helped really. Doing that PhD was, I think, a good decision and investment.
Thanks so much, Hanneke. The next one is a bit more towards your work career. What is the most important leadership lesson you've learned, and how has it proven invaluable?
Yeah, that's really good question. And actually, 2 years ago, I was advised. So you asked the question earlier: were there specific people who helped you? I think that's something that is there continuously. So our at that time female CFO. We had a chat because I became leading professional, and she told me about her career, and I said, well, in general, maybe for women, I don't know. I'm a woman, so I only can tell by myself, but maybe we're sometimes more reluctant in telling, oh, but I can do this. Well, males are more often, not but in general, saying, oh, I'm the best for this job. So she said, well, there's actually quite an interesting course on female leadership, authentic leadership, female leadership. And I learned really a lot there. So one of the things was the thinking fast and slow, but also I think getting insights in the different perspectives. I mean, you are working in a environment and with other people and stakeholders, and they all have it's a playing field, and getting insights in how this works really gave me insights. And I think being a leader also means that you have to understand what how you yourself behave, and yeah, so getting to know, hey, your drivers and the values, that's I think very essential, and don't give up, because more often the more energy you also put into things, sometimes people respond very positively, but also more often you get resistance. And I think if you have the feeling that you are working on something which is worthwhile, find the people who encourage you and where you get energy from, and yeah, don't give up with the first things. Sometimes call myself a steeplechaser. I don't know if you know it, but just continue running, and although those things are falling now and then, those obstacles, just continue. But also, like I think with product development, evaluation is so essential. Every now and then, I mean, you are part of a changing environment. You yourself develop and you change. And I think sometimes have a moment to reflect on yourself, whether your values are still the same, the direction, the goals, settings, but also how your environment has changed, and then seek for yeah, networking, for maybe some coaching, and that will, I think, continue during your whole career, and it will differ in what sense you need mentorship. Maybe in the beginning it's about health skills and technology skills, but yeah, more often it's also about yeah, different behavior and change, how to make change in society and make impact.
Thank you so much, Hanneke. And thank you, Rudy, for asking those valuable questions. Now we will again move to other live questions we have here in chat. And I can see one good question from our team member, Sapir. Yarden, here she asks, what is something that people often get wrong about water resilience? So I think, yeah, that's interesting.
What people get wrong about water resilience? That it's, yeah, people is of course very open and wide, but what I've experienced, and that's a continuous challenge, by the way, but in general, climate change impacts a lot of people, but more often it's the most vulnerable, who are also the ones, the poorest ones with less influence. And I think one of the that often industries and also inhabitants think that government is there to solve the issue, and it's not it's not true for the whole world. That's one, that yeah, that varies a lot. Yeah, in some more richer countries, it's indeed often the government who takes responsibility, but only partly. And finding good business cases. So if you really want to make this impact or disruption, there are definitely ways to do so, and data and technology is there, but who is going to pay for those solutions? And that's, I think, more and more now also an obligation. It's becoming to become an obligation for a lot of industries, like banks, etc. They have to report now on climate change, and I think that's a good good thing which is happening. because sometimes we need regulations or before people start moving or changing.
Thanks, Hanneke. I'm going to ask a quick question here in between all the audience ones. You've given quite a bit of advice already in between your other answers for young professionals, but I'd like to ask, do you have any specific advice that you would give to smart-driven, inspired, rising professionals or graduates about to enter the smart water world? And is there any in particular specific advice that they should ignore, bad advice? And I think I want to tie it in with this audience question where they've asked what are the best tips for during your PhD. So if you have anything specific to PhD and otherwise in general on the entering the smart water space.
Okay, well, I think first of all, the people joining this have done and made a good decision already, that they are being part of a wider network. And as I said, reaching out and go out of your own university or whatever, and see what is outside there and what are the issues to contribute to that one is very essential. And while doing, because I don't like the working in silos, and sometimes you are put back in your silo, because yeah, and that you will experience that during your work, and hopefully not too much during your studies. But of course, when you start working for a company, there are also projects that have to be finished, and before you know, you're up to here with the jobs to be done within your project. And saving time for networking, in the sense of speaking to other colleagues, and is something I would encourage you to continue doing, and also invest time in yourself to improve on your learnings and on your skills. And yeah, if you have the opportunity that you can find a job where they give you the opportunity to do so, that it would be very helpful. And bad advice, I think, is one of them is focus on your task, or it's not contributing to the to the direct sales, for example. I think that's something which is not true, because it's essential to reach out to others, and networking is also working. And instead of thinking that it's something you have to do in your spare time, it's that's not true. And working, that was really an advice from this leadership course that I took 2 years ago. They said, by working harder, you're not necessarily more successful. And I once saw a formula which says I don't know if it's how I interpret it and remember it, but it was something like success is the multiplication of being skillful, but also expose yourself on what you're doing. And if you are already quite skilled, you can improve and become from a 7 to an 8 or a 9. But if your exposure level is still a 1 or 2, maybe you should think of putting some more effort in that one, and showcase the work that you have done, or together with others, or on a conference, or among colleagues. I also understood from being a mentor here internally that sometimes people have very good ideas and initiatives, and try to reach out with those to people who can make a difference for you. And it comes a bit back to the understanding of the playing field in which you are. And sometimes, as being a smart water engineer, this is not the first thing you think about, but who are the ones who could help you a step further. And you can ask people if they want to help you or mentor you for a while, and often people like to do so. And if not, go to the next one and don't spend time too much. And
yeah, thank you so much, Hanneke. Actually, Rudy also covered the recent live question from Yanina. What is your best tip during doing a PhD? So yeah, somehow he wanted to ask, like, if you would want to do your PhD again, what should you do in another way, or like something that you wanted to change that time, or you want that if you could have done it in other ways. Something if you want to add, else we can go to next question.
oh, it's a good question. But what should you do? Well, a best tip. What I really liked, and I still have contact with a lot of fellow PhD students from that period, and they are working in different industries, and some of them are teaching. And what was really really helpful is that at that time, and I also realized that in these times this is really something that you miss. But sitting together in we had separate rooms, but gathering and sharing what goes well and what the obstacles that you face, and help each other in that sense. Although you could not help from a technical perspective often. That was really valuable. And I don't think I would have done it in really another way. I was working for both the university and the Institute of Dataris, who paid part of the research. And I really learned from other students scripting, for example, and I chose R scripting, but help each other on Python, those kind of things. I mean, it was 2008, so it's already, if I'm honest, quite a long time ago. So for sure, I would done it now in a different way, because now I realize that there are much more tools and data available, which would have helped me to speed up in my process. But it's doing a PhD. If some of you are thinking of this, and I know Amrita, you are doing one as well. It's also the objective of doing a PhD is to show that you are capable to do research by yourself. And it's not per se the outcomes. It's the whole learning curve and everything that you learn that you benefit from. And the failure is also, I think, part of it. And yeah.
Thank you so much. Actually, I also wanted to ask that question, so I'm really happy that he asked. So now we just have a few minutes left, so we'll go with Amin's for the last question, and we'll wrap up. Thank you, Amin, for your question.
Okay, thank you very much. I read your background about climate change topics, and I have a question in this regard. I would like to know about the most important impacts of climate change. And my another question is about that some people opine that the best approach to react to climate change is controlling greenhouse gas emission, and other people are of the opinion that the best approach would be adaptation. And which one you believe would be more useful?
Yeah, very good question. I mean, and not sure if everyone knows the difference, but you have climate adaptation and climate mitigation. And well, maybe that's also an answer to the question, what do people often get wrong, is that they mix up climate adaptation with climate mitigation. So climate mitigation is really about reducing the amount of emissions to reduce the warming of the earth. While adaptation is much more about taking measurements to become more resilient. So, I mean, in my opinion, we should continue as much as we can with climate mitigation, but that's not going to solve the issues which we are facing right now. And yeah, what hazard is most well, actually, as I said, in the resilience suite, we have now worked on a platform with multiple hazards, and what I've understood from industry's response is that tropical cyclones are really impacting society and industries, as they cause a lot of damage on wind, but also on coastal floodings and tremendous amounts of rainfall and floods. And it's actually it's a interesting insight that although people think, oh, so with climate change it's about the change in future, no, it's about what is happening now and understanding how vulnerable you are. So being exposed to the hazards is one, but getting an understanding of how vulnerable you currently are, that is an essential one, because if you start acting upon the exposures for which you the hazards for which you are exposed to, and take the right measures, you can become much more resilient. And I think that often people don't even know to which hazards they are exposed to, and that can be the biggest game changer, I think. And so far, I see that either a lot of people are focusing on getting knowledge about the amount of exposure, or it's completely about the vulnerability. And I think the combination is to make that combination is so essential. And measures, that's by the way structural and non-structural. So it's also about having plans and communication lines in place, etc., and know what to do when an emergency is happening, and be responsive to it and proactive. I think and that was also the reason why we started with this initiative of Blue Label, to have people to become more proactive, because then once they know how exposed they are, they can do something about it, instead of, well, that it happens and after it happens start recovery and then realizing that you were exposed to it. Is that
Thank you very
answering
much.
your question, I mean?
Yes.
Thanks so much, Hanneke, and I mean for that question and answer. We have to wrap up. Unfortunately, the hour has gone by so quickly. It was very interesting. Yeah. Thank you so much, Hanneke. I think we have a few unanswered questions, and if there are any more from the audience, would you be willing to respond to them on our LinkedIn group if we write them in the comments?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no problem. And yeah, so again, great initiative, and happy for those of you to get connected. I don't see everyone joining, but for sure you can reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think that's for me the best platform to interact with you. So yeah, always happy to answer a question or whatever.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We would just also like to encourage everybody to give us some feedback on the session. We have a feedback survey link that is going to be going into the chat shortly. So if you can let us know what we can improve on, and another reminder to add any questions for Hanneke in our LinkedIn group, and she will respond to them there. I'll make a post shortly. And thank you all for joining our next episode in June. We haven't confirmed a date yet, but we will be hosting Aaron McGarvey, who's a data scientist from American Water. So look forward to that. And once the registrations are open, you'll have the opportunity to ask questions up front as well. So thank you all for joining. And thanks again, Hanneke. It was a fantastic session. And enjoy your evening or your morning, wherever you are.
Exactly.
Thanks
for the
everyone.
opportunity. Okay, bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome session, Hanneke.
Yeah, I very much liked it and enjoyed totally.
Awesome. Okay, I'll end the recording.